Hey folks, welcome back. So this week, the very first thing that we are going to work on is we are going to replace the battery in the skid steer, because you may recall from like last week that we're having some issues with that. It's not holding the full charge, so when we go to start it, it won't go, so we have to either put it on the charger or something like that to get it up high enough to turn over, and it's just sort of a pain. So we're going to pull the old battery. We're going to take that, run over to the parts store. I think they've got one in stock. We can swap that out. We'll bring a new one out, get that one in there, and then hopefully we're good to go on that. Alrighty, we are back from the parts store. We got our new battery in the back of the truck. So let's see if we can't get that thing in there, and hopefully that'll get things going. And hopefully the new one goes in a little bit easier than the old one came out. You see there's like this little retention piece of metal in there that keeps the battery from bouncing around or tipping over or something like that. And there are two bolts, one on each end of it to hold it in place. And you got about this much room to move a wrench or a ratchet or something like that to get these bolts out. And the bolts are about this long, it seems like, so it takes forever to get those bolts out of there. But, I guess as long as they do their job and they hold the battery in place, and hopefully we won't have to replace this battery for a good while. So I guess, it's okay. It just takes a while to get those things in and out. Alright, with the new battery in, it seems like the track loader is running just fine now. So hopefully that is going to be the last of the issues we have with that for a while. So anywho, next up we got another little project here, and I don't recall if I filmed this one when I took it apart, but we got over here a blower, and this is actually a blower for the wood stove over here. It needed a little bit of work, a little bit of cleaning out. It had some grime and stuff that had gotten up in there. So I had it disassembled. Well, I still do have it disassembled right here. And I got it cleaned up and everything. So we're gonna go ahead and put that thing back together. Alright folks, well, as the title of this video probably suggests, we finally got more logs this week. Now I thought we were going to be getting some, but I didn't want to say it last week because I've kind of been sounding like a broken record over the last month and a half or so, because I keep on saying I think we're going to get them next week and then we don't. So I wasn't going to say anything, but we got them. They are here. We got them in late last night. I met the guy at like 6 o'clock yesterday evening, and then by the time I was out here getting them unloaded. It was dark, but you know, I'm not complaining because we finally got them so I can get back to milling. Now, as was the case over the last couple times, we unloaded them on this side of the creek, so we need to haul them all over to where the mill house is, somewhere over in that area. And we'll just be doing that one at a time for the bigger ones. We got a couple small ones over here too, might be able to get them in one go. But that is what we are gonna work on this evening. Alrighty folks, today we are finally getting back to doing some milling. Now, as we do this next little bit of milling, I'm going to be keeping track of how many boards I've done and what we've got on hand, because we're not actually milling all of these logs up into deck boards. We are going to need some boards for some other stuff with the deck build, and we're going to want those to be the oak as well. One of the things that I know for sure that we're going to need to do is that one of the arch pieces was replaced at one point, and it was actually replaced with a creosote beam, which that means it could be maybe a railroad tie, or it could have been cut out of a telephone pole. I kind of think it's a railroad tie, but it really does not match with the rest of the arch pieces in there. So we do need to mill one of those. That's a 6x8 beam, about 8 foot long. And then there's some other little boards here and there around in kind of the deck of the bridge that we need to mill that aren't going to be these 2x6s. So we're only going to be milling up maybe a couple of these logs into 2x6s for the deck, and then the rest of the logs will get used for other little parts of the bridge build. Alright, well this one ended up having a less than solid center in it, so we didn't get quite as much yield as I would have liked to out of this one. Now, I was hoping that maybe at this end I might be able to get a beam out of it, our arch piece that we need, and I had the pith, the center of the log really nicely boxed on that end. It was just like right in the middle of where I wanted my beam to be, and I made a cut along here, and because this log had a little bit of sweep to it, a little bit of bow, that pith followed that and it popped right out of there. And you really kind of want that to be in the middle of your beam. You don't want that coming out because it's not always real solid. It's fine if it's, you know, boxed in with good wood around it, but you don't always really want that coming out onto the edge. So the rest of this log I think is probably going to end up being firewood. But we did get a fair amount of stuff out of it, and we still need to cut all this stuff down to width because some of it's kind of weird widths, because once I saw that there was going to be some bad stuff in here, I was sort of rotating the log this way and that way to try getting as much yield out of this cant as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this thing out of the way, get that off from here, and then we'll start loading these up on here and cut them down to the width that we need.